Apple started their company with macOS, and it's still a pretty major player, but it's definitely in decline. Then they changed the world with iOS on their mobile platforms, and very recently they added watchOS to all their wearable technology. Then lastly, we got tvOS, the OS they built for your television, where the idea was we'll open all of our app developers up to your television screen so that they can control what kind of software goes on your living room screen. That way you'd have a lovely selection of apps to choose from in a similar way like Apple added apps to your smartphone. Now what actually happened was really awesome, actually. Before I go completely Apple sheep on you guys, let me point out its weaknesses, and we all know that's this fairly expensive TV box can't do 4K, can't do HDR, which apparently we care about nowadays. It has an Apple A8 chip powering the whole thing, which is getting pretty old now. So the games that can run on here are not running at high frame rates, and they're not very graphic intensive. Most of them tend to be very minimalistic. For a whopping $150, you get 32 gigs of storage, and the only other option is 64 gigs of storage for $200. So yeah, it holds up to the Apple stereotype of being expensive. What I recommend if you're interested is getting it certified refurbished from Apple. That's what I did. I got it for $130, and since it's a TV box, you're really not going to notice if this thing is used, and believe me, it was completely premium. It did not feel like it had been used at all. So obviously, at the start, this TV specs were kind of dated at the get-go. I think it definitely needs to have a big spec upgrade later on, but now let's focus on what this box is actually good at doing. I'll start with first impressions, right? When I first turned on the Apple TV, it had the most genius idea that all TV boxes and consoles need to adopt. It turns on and says, connect your iOS device to this via Bluetooth, which is really easy. You just grab your iPhone, go to settings, Bluetooth, and you see the Apple TV is an option there. You just tap it. I'm going, okay, why do I connect it? Boom! The Apple TV immediately knows everything. Since the TV box briefly connected to my phone, it now knows the Wi-Fi password, which is Apple Lover 491. It knows my Apple ID password, and therefore already has all my Apple Music loaded in there, ready to play, as well as my entire iCloud photo library ready to go. No dumb keyboard joystick movements. By far the best setup process of any TV box or console out there. It took barely any time, period. It was like 30 seconds max. And first of all, you're greeted with a very elegantly designed home screen, where with the trackpad of the remote, you just slide around to all the apps you want to use. And you can even wiggle around with them a little bit, and that serves no functional purpose, but it just gives you a feeling like you're in control. Like I have a lot of influence on what's going on the screen. And it's stupid, I know, but it's fun. It's interactive, right? This OS also carries over a lot of the features of iOS, which is great because that's the best operating system in the world. Like for instance, holding down an app is how you rearrange it on the home screen. Also, double tapping the home button on the remote brings you to like multitasking. It's not really multitasking more than it is just app switching, but I think its primary focus is so that you can close apps moving in the background, which if you have slow Wi-Fi is a big plus. So everything in terms of navigation flows very nicely. It all flows very fluidly. The other thing I love about this remote is dictation, which I know I've touched on in the past. In apps like YouTube, you can just hold down that microphone button and say whatever, and it works really well. It gets things quick, and even when there's background audio, usually it's able to pick it up very precisely. Same with Netflix as well. I had no problems dictating things, even when stuff on the TV was playing. Also, you can enter text letter by letter if you need to. So if you need to say W928747621, it's gonna understand that, which is really helpful if you're taking it to another person's house and you need to connect to a new Wi-Fi network and the Wi-Fi key is really complicated. Just read it out loud and it gets it. So that's the basic TV side of things, but how about that newly designed app store? I found some pretty entertaining games that keep me invested enough. Of course, a lot of these are basic, free, low-end graphics games with definitely no story or anything like that. You get like arcade games mostly, but look, that's just because the game developers don't have much to work with in that tiny box. But they're simple and entertaining. I like Alto's Adventure, I like Pac-Man 256. Those feel like they were designed for a big screen, and they work very well on it. Now, I do love that the Apple TV actually connects to my Bose SoundLink Mini, and then I can control the volume of that speaker with a single remote, no having to fumble around for some other remote. That's really thought out and thought through, and I love that. That's about it, right? It's fairly simple, but here is my biggest question for it. So it's competing with the Fire TV, the Roku, the Chromecast, all that stuff. It's the obvious player from Apple too, given it's the most expensive one. But I see a ton of potential here too, since navigation feels really good, and you can do quite a lot of things with this remote, which gives you a good feel on navigation, but also has a gyroscope and an accelerometer, so you can use it in very specific types of apps that want your TV to be kind of like a Wii. So in terms of elegance and feel, I feel like it blows those other TV things out of the water. Of of course not on price, but in terms of app selections that Apple offers and that elegant remote and how everything feels so slick, I think this thing would be perfect if Apple just unleashed all the specs with it. Bulk it up and give it some high-end processing. Get some more stuff in there and tell some AAA developers, go nuts, have fun. I bet if they did that, they'd really be onto something, because right now it just has a couple cool games on it and it's good at playing Netflix and YouTube. So it's kind of really high priced for a TV box, but not quite in the console market, which is up here. So my point is, what if they just went full on console? So here's my pitch. Have the Apple TV Pro, and that of course has 4K support. It has an A10X chip in it, in high-end graphics, like the kind of graphics that are gonna be in the iPad Pro 2. Something really high-end, have 256 gigs of storage or 128, something like that. All USB-C, of course, on the back. I'd love to see what developers could do with that kind of power if Apple gave it to them. And you know, of course, that would be $400, $500, which I know may sound like a lot, but again, it is Apple, and they're kind of known for that. Steve Jobs would be proud. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.